Hey guys, welcome to another video. What we're going to be doing today is we are going to be taking a look at our week 2 AP poll rankings that just came out today, looking at the 1 through 25 top 25 AP poll rankings. This is our reaction to them for week 2 of the college football season. Go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments, drop them below and I will make sure to respond. So we had a lot of changes that happened from week 0 to our poll coming out for week 2. We had a couple teams that completely messed up, got themselves thrown out, Florida State. And then we have some teams that really showed up and they're going to be advancing in the polls: Notre Dame, USC, and Miami. But let's go ahead and look at this top 25, starting at number 1, and let's get our reaction. As I mentioned, hit that like button and subscribe. So the AP poll here we have number 1 Georgia Bulldogs coming in, 57 first place votes. They are 1-0. They had that massive win versus Clemson. I'm not going to get to the Clemson portion till we actually get to Clemson's ranking, but Georgia showed out. They showed, even though they lost McClunky, Bowers, Kirby Smart had this team ready to go. They were concentrated on this game versus Clemson. They showed no matter what, this team is recruited and built through the transfer portal to be the number 1 team in the country. They're going to have a top 10 offense. They're going to have a top 10 defense. Carson Beck picked up right where he left off last week. And I'm honestly surprised that they only had 57 first place votes for having one of the only top 25 victories in week 1. Coming in at number 2, we have the Ohio State Buckeyes with 5 first place votes. They stayed where they were previously. I don't know who those 5 people were that when they watched the Buckeyes, they thought that they should get their first place vote. And I'm saying this as an unbiased person. I don't think there's 5 people that should have voted for the Buckeyes over Georgia as of right now. Buckeyes had a good win versus Akron. I think it was like 55-10 or something like that. But that first half did not look very good. Yes, they owned the second half. They wore them out. They owned the trenches. We know the Buckeyes are going to have the number 1 defense in all of college football. They have 8 starters coming back from what was the number 3 defense last year. They are loaded on defense, best in the nation. Offense, you have Quinton Junkins, Henderson, Egbuka. Jeremiah Smith looks legitimate, like a number 1 wide receiver anywhere else. Will Howard, he's an upgrade over Kyle McCord, but to me, he left a lot to be desired. No reason to panic. First game in Chip Kelly's scheme. First game versus a real college football team. So they're going to get better every single week. So don't hit the panic button. But this is obviously going to be a team that relies on their defense and for their offense to do just enough to win the game. They are the number 2 team. I just thought that maybe that they should have got 5 first place votes. Coming in at number 3, we have the Texas Longhorns. They're moving up 1 spot. They're 1-0. They put a beat down on their competition this past weekend. Yes, Quinn Ewers had 1 pick. He had 3 touchdowns. Don't panic about 1 pick. Quinn Ewers has been playing 3-4 years now. We know what he is. We know he's getting drafted in the first round. They showed their depth. They showed that this is a top 10 roster, a top 5 roster. They lost Worthy, Mitchell. They lost a lot of players on the defensive line. They've replaced them through recruiting and through the portal. Steve Sarkisian has a great team here, and their running back was running people and bulldozing people the whole game. This is obviously a top 5 roster, and they deserve to be number 3. I would not have in any way complained if they would have actually jumped them over Ohio State week 1 and they were number 2. But 2 or 3, it really doesn't matter. Coming in at number 4, we have Alabama also moving up 1 spot. They obviously owned Western Michigan. Kalen DeBoer had like 9 pass attempts for 300-something yards. They played really well. Kalen DeBoer is a vertical passing coach that's going to work wonders with Jalen Milroe. He loves the deep ball, has one of the better deep balls in all of college football. They need to work on the intermittent passing, but this is, according to ESPN, the number 1 overall roster in terms of blue chip 4 and 5-star players. Defense looked good. Secondary looked good. Yes, it was not tough competition, but Western Michigan can score some points. They shut them down. They scored a lot. They deserve to be number 4. Coming in at number 5, we have Notre Dame, 1-0, moving up 2 spots after beating the Aggies in College Station. That was a good win. Honestly, I was not surprised at all. I picked Notre Dame to win it. I've had them winning it the whole time since last year ended. but I think it's a little bit of an overreaction to move them up 2 spots. I'd have been fine with 1 spot. Moving them up 2 spots, Notre Dame was 7, Texas A&M was 20. Notre Dame theoretically should have beaten them. Riley Leonard comes in. He had a 50% completion percentage. That's not due to the Aggies having a great defense, although they do, but that's his career completion percentage. He always plays that way. The guy's not a good, accurate passer. He can scramble, throw on the run, and he's a good running, mobile quarterback. Their run game looked great. Their defense under Al Golden is a top 10 defense that travels. Marcus Freeman, good coach. Ken Denbrock, this offense is going to get better every single game. So look for Riley Leonard to also improve under Ken Denbrock. And that wide receiver core, this is the best wide receiver core they've had in a decade. I don't have an issue with them being number 5. It's just I don't think they should have moved up 2 spots and jumped Ole Miss. Coming in at number 6, we have Ole Miss, who they win 76-0. Yes, they played a garbage team, but Lane Kiffin's team, they put all their chips in this season to make the playoffs. It's this year or bust. Jackson Dart, great game. They're loaded at running back, wide receiver, number 1 transfer portal team coming in. Their defense is going to be solid this season. This is a team that's more than capable of not just competing in the SEC championship, but competing for one of those final 12 spots to potentially make the playoffs. Like I mentioned, if not this year, when? They put everything into this money, pulled all of their NIL into this team right here, and they have a very solid team. So to me, I would have probably moved them up to 5 and moved Notre Dame up to 6, but it's not really that much of a difference. Coming in at 7, we have the Oregon Ducks sliding 4 spots. I don't have an issue with that. I'm not surprised by that at all. They laid an egg this past Saturday. Yes, they won. Never apologize for a win. A win's a win. It's always good to win. But 24-14 or 24-17 versus Idaho, when you were like 40-point favorites, that's not good enough at all. Dylan Gabriel went 41 of 47 or 41 of 48 for 380 yards. That's good stats unless you watch the game and you saw that all he did the whole game was dink and dunk, would not push the ball past 5 to 10 yards at all. They'd get down to the other side of the field, but they were not able to punch it in. They couldn't own the line of scrimmage, which is really surprising. This is a top 5 overall roster, a top 10 defense, a top 10 offense. Don't hit the panic button at all. First game, Dylan Gabriel, new scheme. He's still the Heisman front runner as of right now. I have them potentially winning the Big Ten, but they will make the playoffs. A loaded team under Dan Lanning. I'm not panicking in any way whatsoever. It's just that was not a good week 1 showing. That was actually rather poor, but they're going to get better every single week from here on out. They have Boise coming up. That's a tough one. And they have the Buckeyes on the horizon. So maybe they were just sleepwalking week 1, looking to the tougher games they had coming down the stretch. Coming in at number 8, you have the Penn State Nittany Lions, not moving up at all. I don't understand that in any way whatsoever. They beat a 9-win West Virginia team in West Virginia and beat them handily, owned the line of scrimmage, outplayed them on offense, outplayed them on defense. Drew Waller looked great. The wide receivers looked great. They averaged 5 yards a pass last season. They were not doing that this past Saturday. They were vertically pushing the ball down the field. They have a new offensive scheme. It's more of a multiple offense. They're going to have a top 10 defense under Tim Allen. James Franklin has a talented squad here with one of the deepest running back rooms in the country. They can easily get to 10 wins. They're going to make the playoffs this season. I don't see how you don't move them up 1 spot based off of how well they played this past weekend. But it's not a big deal. 7 or 8, they're still top 10. Coming in at number 9, we have Missouri moving up 2 spots. Missouri's good. Cook's back. Talented team. Top 30 offense, top 30 defense. They won 11 games last season. Easiest schedule in the SEC. They can basically sleepwalk to a 10-2 season, potentially make the SEC championship, potentially make the playoffs. That is possible. Very easy schedule. Talented squad. Do I think they're a top 10 team? No. Do I think they're that far off from a top 10 team? No. But I don't see how they did enough to move up 2 spots, but Penn State beating a really good team didn't do anything to move up 1 spot. That doesn't make sense. I'd have probably kept Missouri around 11. Coming in at number 10, we have the Michigan Wolverines falling 1 spot. They're 1-0. Michigan, not a good showing on Saturday. They won. A win's a win. Sharon Moore, first game as the head coach. You only have one starter back from your national championship offense. You're going to have a solid defense, 5 starters back on defense. We know they're going to have a top 10 defense. That offense left a lot to be desired. With Texas on the horizon this week, they're going to have to play better. Yes, they're at home. The defense should keep every game close. If Texas beats Michigan, that's a top 10 win. They could obviously jump the Buckeyes after this week. Not saying that's going to last, but they would obviously jump them with the top 10 team. And Michigan, they're the defending national champion, so you have to leave them in the top 10 till they lose. But I have the feeling they might be falling out after this week. Coming in at number 11, we have the Utah Utes moving up one spot. They had a shutout win this past weekend. They showed what they were missing last season. Cam Rising came in, picked up right where he left off the last time he played 2 years ago. Kyle Whittingham, third longest tenured coach in the nation. They're going to have a top 20 offense. They could run, throw. This is a team that's going to compete for the Big 12, potentially win the Big 12 this season. They deserve to be ranked where they are, and they're going to have a really strong year. Coming in at 12, we have Miami, moving up 7 spots, one of the biggest movers. I was actually glad to see this. The reason that I was I said Miami was going to beat Florida, and when they beat Florida, they were going to move up to number 12, so it actually panned out right. I had Miami beating Florida. I had Notre Dame beating the Aggies, so none of that was surprising. They deserve to be 12. Now, I'm not completely jumping on the train saying Miami's back. They're going to win the national championship this year. Now, I did pick them preseason to finish 11-1 and win the ACC and make the playoffs. So everything so far is going the way that I saw it going. Very talented team. This is the number 9 overall roster according to ESPN, and they're loaded. Cristobal's built this team the right way through recruiting and the portal. Florida State's only built their team through the portal. Clemson's only built their team through recruiting, and both are lacking in one area. Miami, they're not. Cameron Ward at quarterback, Damian Martinez at running back, the wide receivers, Restrepo, George, they have Arroyo. They have a very, very talented defense, especially on the D-line, one of the better ones in the country. They have a top 10 offensive line. This is a team that should cruise through an easy ACC schedule. They deserve to be 12, and they're probably going to win the ACC, and it's wide open. Coming in at 13, we have USC, the biggest mover, 1-0, beating LSU, moving up 10 spots. I don't have a problem with this. You beat LSU in Las Vegas. You guys swap position. They move down. You move up. They had a great showing. Props to Lincoln Riley. He's taken a lot of pressure off of himself, a lot of heat off of his seat. Miller Moss looks legitimate. He was slinging the ball up and down the field. This wide receiver core looks great. They're not going to miss Caleb Williams, and their defense played physical, tough, kept the game close, and the offense won it. They almost had the last possession there, played a great game. This is a team that's probably going to go 9-3 this season. I don't have them making the playoffs, but they're coming into the Big Ten with an SEC win. That's massive, and they deserve their ranking as of right now. Coming in at 14, we have the Tennessee Volunteers, 1-0, moving up one spot. They had a massive win. Nico looked great. They have Squirrel White, Josh Heupel calling plays, top 20 offense, top 20 defense. But the main thing that they did, everyone's talking about Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss. What about Tennessee in the SEC? They're an under-the-radar potential SEC champion. If they go 10-2 in the SEC, they're going to make the playoffs. People better start taking them serious. This is a very good team, very talented, well-coached team. 15, Oklahoma, 1-0. They moved up one spot. Oklahoma, also a talented team, but their schedule is brutal. One of the top 10 worst schedules, probably a top 5. Jackson Arnold looked great, slinging the ball up and down the field. Brent Venables has recruited a strong team here through the portal, through recruiting, top 10 in both. The defense looks really strong. They're 15. It's just their schedule's so rough, I don't think that they're going to finish the year there. Coming in at 16, we have Oklahoma State Cowboys. They had a solid win this past weekend. It's mainly going to be led by Ollie Gordon. The reason that I say that is Ollie Gordon's the Doak Award winner. He had 21 touchdowns last year, 1,700 yards. They have a top 10 offensive line due to experience in starts for the offensive line. You have Mike Gundy, the second most tenured coach in all of college football. He gets 10 wins every season. The Big 12 has a lot of teams at the top. Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Kansas. They're kind of all competing right now to win the Big 12 and make that Final 12 and make the playoffs. Oklahoma State should be taken serious. When you have a running back of that caliber, their best running back in all of college football, you can lean on him to control the pace of any game. He can get you wins. They deserve to be where they are, and they're an outlier team should take seriously to be competing for the playoffs this season. Coming in at 17, Kansas State. Strong team, one of the best teams in the Big 12, easily a top 25 team. They have Avery coming in at quarterback, replacing Will Howard, the highest recruited quarterback in Kansas State history. They have a top 20 offense, a top 20 defense, very well-rounded, well-coached physical team. This is a team that could also make the playoffs this season. They deserve to be 17, and they're going to keep rising in the polls as they continue to win. Coming in at 18, we have LSU dropping 5 spots. I have no issue with that at all. Some people wanted LSU thrown out of the polls. Complete overreaction. Brian Kelly, number 6 overall roster, according to ESPN. Nussmeier has shown he's capable of replacing the production of Jaden Daniels. They lost Neighbors. They lost Thomas. This team is loaded. That wide receiver core looked great. And their defense, just like USC, is much improved over last season. This is a team that might not make the playoffs this season, but they could get to 8 to 9 wins. Next is number 19, the Kansas. Kansas, the best offense in the Big 12, a top 10 offense potentially. They average almost 40 per game last season. This team is going to go as far as the quarterback Daniels carries them. He has yet to play a full season healthy. If he stays healthy this season, he can sling it, he can run it, and they have Neal at running back, a top 3 running back. They can rely on him. Quarterback, they play good defense. This is the team that could get to 10 wins this season. 10 wins gets you to the Big 12 championship. Winning the Big 12 gets you in the playoffs. It's a team that a lot of people haven't been focusing on yet, but they're just like Tennessee. You should start taking notice of them now. They deserve to be number 19, and they are also going to keep winning and keep rising in the polls. Number 20, Arizona moved up 1 spot. I wouldn't have moved Arizona up. I probably would have dropped them 1 to 2 spots. Leave them in the top 25, but drop them down to 23 to 25, somewhere in there. Yes, they scored like 69 points. They gave up 38 points to the New Mexico Lobos. They have Fafita. They have McMillan, one of the best quarterback wide receiver combos. They have a new coach, new scheme, system, but that defense did not play well at all. They won the game, never apologize for a win, but once you get into Big 12 play, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Utah, that's not good enough. They didn't do anything to move up 1 spot. I don't see how you move them up 1 spot, but yet you penalize Penn State. You don't move up them. I mean, would Arizona, based off of that performance, beat Kansas? I don't think so. It would be a shootout, but I think Kansas is a lot more rounded. So I would have dropped them. You have to penalize someone for giving up 40 points to a team that's not good at all. I would have dropped them a couple spots, but they're still a top 25 team. Coming in at 21, we have the Iowa Hawkeyes, moving up 4 spots. Perfectly fine with that. The Hawkeyes actually showed some life on offense for the first time in decades. Kirk Ferentz's team ranked 131st out of 132 teams last year in offense. That was pathetic. It could only get worse by 1 spot. Their offense first half, they only scored 6 points. That was pathetic, but they own the second half. Their tight end looks like a first-round pick right now. They were slinging the ball. They were moving the ball. Props to them. We know Iowa's going to have a top 10 defense. If they could just get the offense into the top 80, this is a team that can make the playoffs. Very easy Big Ten schedule. They're looking like they're more than capable of winning 10 games this season. If their offense continues to improve every week, if they win 10 games in the Big Ten, they're going to make the playoffs. So it's a team that we'll definitely have to keep our eye on. After that, coming in at 22, we have a newly ranked team, the Louisville Cardinals. Jeff Brom knows how to work the portal. Lost almost his entire team last season. He replaced them through the portal. But what makes him different is he completely adapts his scheme to who he's brought in, to who's on the roster. They had top 30 offense last season, top 30 defense, solid win. They deserve to be ranked, and the ACC, with Clemson and Florida State playing so horribly, is up for grabs outside of Miami. Coming in at 23, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, 2-0. They were not ranked last week. They have the win in Dublin versus Florida State. They had the win this past weekend. They have King at quarterbacks. He can throw it. He's mobile. They have Haynes at running back, a top 10 running back in the country. Very talented team, a team that a lot of people were sleeping on. But if you watched them last year, you knew that they were going to be competitive this season. They earned the right to be ranked. Coming in at 24, we have NC State. I don't see how you didn't move them back. They stayed where they were last week. You should have penalized them. Don't throw them out of the top 25. They did not have a good win. Yes, they won the game by double digits, but it was crap. They played awful first half, could not run the ball, could not control the line of scrimmage. Grayson McCall, first game in the system. He's going to keep getting better every single week. But when you play that bad, how do you not move back? I don't understand that. They deserve to be ranked, but we have to penalize them. Dropped them to 25 just because they had an awful game. Clemson at 25, 0-1. They dropped them 11 spots. This is an overreaction to me. I'd still put them in front of NC State. Yes, they got curb stomped by the number 1 team, Georgia. Clemson, according to ESPN, has the number 7 overall roster. So even though you were playing Georgia, you can't just completely get curb stomped and only score 6 points. That's not acceptable in any way whatsoever on any day. That should never happen. You should at least be able to get a touchdown. There's a lot of reasons why their offense is so pathetic. They're going to have a top 10 defense. That defense played really well first half. They were down less than 1 score, but they got tired second half because their offense couldn't get a first down. Cade Klubnik played awful. Maffa played awful. The wide receivers, it's not their fault because they couldn't scheme them open. Dabo, you might have to start working the portal, man. Don't give up on recruiting. Keep bringing in top 10 classes, but you need to complement your team with a couple pieces out of the portal. You could have used a number 1 wide receiver, an offensive lineman. Those pieces could have been used. Don't completely transform your team. Just add a couple complementary pieces. But I don't think you should have dropped them all the way down to 25. To me, that's an overreaction from 14. They should still be in front of NC State. Slow down. Let's not overreact. Couple teams that got dropped out, Florida State, deservedly so. They're 0-2, complete train wreck. Norvell has some soul searching to do. DJU's been completely awful, but we did call that before the season. And Texas A&M. Why'd you drop them out of the rankings? You just moved Notre Dame up to 5. They lost a really close game versus the number 5 team, and they get thrown out of the rankings. That's, again, an overreaction. Let's slow down. Drop them down to 23, 24. Don't throw them out of the rankings. Why do you throw them out, but you're moving Arizona up, who gave up 40 points to New Mexico? Again, that doesn't make sense. But the teams just outside of the rankings, the Aggies, Boston College, Boise State. I could see Boise State being ranked right now. They've earned the right to be number 25, had a 10-win season last year. They scored a lot of points this past weekend, and they have Oregon coming up. So that's going to be a really exciting game to watch. But that's our reaction to our Week 2 AP Poll Top 25. Go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any comments, drop them below, and I'll make sure to respond. Thank you.